Wherever you are in the world, the demands on mental health resources are increasing, and India is certainly no different. But mental health is far from the glamorous end of medicine, and it certainly isn't the best resourced. The head of CMC's Department of Psychiatry, Dr. Anna Tarayan, certainly knows the challenges only too well. But Dr. Anna is educated and experienced in how she should respond to the demands, or so she thought. Then a local man, Mr. Chandrasekhar, who runs a small NGO that is committed to servicing the poor and marginalized in Vellore, confronted her with a challenge.
This is Mr. Chandrasekhar, and he's the person who's changed the course of the practice of psychiatry at CMC. He made the first request to get us as doctors out into the community to work with the community to help people with mental illness. Mr. Chandrasekhar pointed out that I was going round and round the same wards every day, and he offered to introduce me to the concept of ward rounds on the street. And I was his chauffeur. He pointed out people with mental illness who were sitting on the roadside. To my amazement, we discovered that each one had people who were looking after them. We discovered there were people who were feeding the mentally ill who were sitting on the roadside, who were actually bathing. One person who had intellectual disability and could not have bathed himself. So there were people who were looking after those whom we thought were destitute. People were reaching out to other human beings without being able to make a diagnosis or prescribe the treatment, which we were very good at. And that is really what has started off a slightly different model of providing clinical services in psychiatry than what I had been doing for 30 years. This gentleman was observed by the owner of this shop to be wandering in the neighborhood, and he recognized that this gentleman has a psychiatric illness. He requested Mr. Chandrasekhar to help, and Mr. Chandrasekhar conveyed the description to me. It was very clear that he has a chronic psychiatric condition. So I prescribed the medicines which he required. Mr. Chandrasekhar gave those medicines to the tea shop owner, who administered it. What is amazing is that this is culturally appropriate, so people know how to connect with a person on the street much better than a psychiatrist who's trained in a totally different setting.
It is the challenge of ordinary people like Mr. Chandrasekhar and the example of Amin, the tea shop owner, who have allowed Anna and her team to refocus CMC's involvement with Vellore's mentally ill. Now their diagnostic, clinical and prescriptive skills are able to bring change to lives, where before there was so little hope. Situated 2 hours from Vellore in the town of Tirupattur, Ramesh and Prema have established a home for people with severe psychiatric illness. Once again, it was Mr. Chandrasekhar who brought together Dr. Anna Tarayan, CMC and this wonderful couple.
Another life-changing moment for me was when I was invited to visit the home in Tirupattur that had been set up by proteges of Mr. Chandrasekhar. This is Uduva Mullangal's home for rehabilitation of psychiatrically ill people. This is Mr. Ramesh and Prema, his wife. Ramesh and Prema started this home in 2006, and they were aware that by law they're required to have medical input into this process, and that's how CMC was invited and I got involved. And today we have taken in over 100 people, some of whom have returned to their families because their families were traced, all of whom have been treated and are undergoing rehabilitation now.
We find the people mingling with the dogs and the pigs, eating from the food left over from the marriage halls.
So when Ramesh invited me to go there, it was
yet another whole new world that we were exposed to.
This home is like none other that I have seen in India and in fact abroad. There is a very special quality to the care that this home is giving. So we need to analyze what they bring to this home. But yes, it's not like anywhere else in the world. A rehab home is ideally suited to bringing the shelter and the food and the care required for a person with mental illness. But unless the disease is diagnosed and treated, which by itself is not a very expensive or an extremely complicated process, unless the treatment is put into place, we can't change lives of people suffering with psychiatric illness. And that is basically the contribution that CMC brings to this initiative.
Dr. Anna's discovery of the street-level support for vulnerable sufferers of mental illness has redirected the way CMC's mental health unit faces the challenge in Vellore. Now her team understand that they must engage, train and work alongside the compassion and generosity already at work in the community if they are going to bring these lost people home.
This effort brings to a person with mental illness the family that is not there to support them. So it is caring about the individual, giving him a place in society, and also treating the illness from which the person suffers from. So it's literally restoring the fabric of society, which the illness has destroyed.